Hi everyone, Lochthany in Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Wolf Alice album, Blue Weekend. This is the newest and third full-length LP from UK rock outfit Wolf Alice, a band that's been slowly growing their profile in the indie world since the drop of their breakout record in 2015, My Love Is Cool. Now, since then, to be honest, I've mostly been struggling to see what the Wolf Alice hype is about, as the band's blend of indie and alt-rock, with the occasional dream pop or punk twist, has always read as unimaginative, more or less. But with this new LP over here of theirs getting the most rave reviews I've seen of any of their releases so far, I thought this might be the one where, for me, Wolf Alice kind of clicks. But after listening to this, I could not feel farther from that point. Because looking at the surface level presentation of this record, it's pretty easy to mark this as Wolf Alice's most grand and ambitious to date. The soaring, lush, and slightly overblown layers of vocals, keys, guitars, and strings say as much. But beyond that, there's not a whole lot to Blue Weekend's songwriting or sound, as nearly every track comes together like a weak hodgepodge of several different influences. The first full song on the record, Delicious Things, opens up with the blissful euphoria and whimsical melodies of a grizzly bear song, which is mismatched with the low-key bass lines and hushed, angsty lead vocals of a 90s singer-songwriter album. Think of Jules singing against really generic, chirpy, indie vocal harmonies soaked in way too much reverb with a melody that's anything but memorable. Meanwhile, the story of the track is about a young person with an anything-goes attitude being wowed by the lights and thrills of Los Angeles, which is a legitimate coming-of-age experience that a lot of people have gone through. But does Wolf Alice bring anything refreshing or exciting to the narrative? Not really. And sadly, this LP doesn't get much more exciting on Lipstick on the Glass either. If you listen through this LP, you will learn pretty quickly that frontwoman Ellie Rosell is kind of a vocal chameleon. And once the instrumentation on this track hits its key groove, she kind of sounds like Lana Del Rey singing over a way too compressed instrumental from Radiohead's In Rainbows, and how unappealing that is should be kind of self-evident. Also, it wouldn't really be a Wolf Alice album without some heavy allusions to 90s rock at some point. This comes in the form of the song Smile, which is some groovy radio rock a la Jane's Addiction, topped with some weird quasi-rapping that, I don't ever want to hear again. On the chorus, the band just swaps out one bland idea for another. The riffs mellow out, and this gives way to some cavernous aughts-era indie vocal harmonies. I can appreciate this track as more blood-pumping than anything else so far on the record, but it still represents a lot of what I'm glad kind of died out with the 90s. Safe from Heartbreak is a kind of quaint acoustic ballad in the middle of the LP that comes with a simple message that I am always safe from heartbreak as long as I never fall in love. And this plays out with a lovely, gentle vocal delivery, regal harmonies in the background, some smoothly picked acoustic guitar too. The brevity of the track leaves it feeling more like an interlude than anything else, but it's still one of the prettier spots on the LP. Then the following How Can I Make It Okay starts off like some kind of Enya-inspired dream sequence. Lots of airy synth arpeggios, heartbeat rhythms, and cavernous lead vocals, but eventually the track hits a groove with a bass mix that is absolutely ridiculous. It sounds like I'm hearing the band live and a sound guy has decided for no reason to crank the bass 2 times higher than everything else in the mix, and it sounds awful. I feel like my head is in the goddamn cab when I listen to this thing. The tune from this point is fairly mid-paced, kind of a linear build, comes to a drab and predictable conclusion. When it's over, it's like it never happened. The next track here, Play the Greatest Hits, says as much, which is a tongue-in-cheek punk rocker that'll actually rip your head off. It slays with aggression, but there are actually some nice nuanced touches in the mix that give it some dynamics. If any up-and-coming band had put out this track, I would have to come on here and tell you, wow, this is great, this is fantastic, so exciting, really raw, this band is like really one to watch. But because it's Wolf Alice, they're merely just touring through this sound before they move on to an electric piano ballad on Feeling Myself, which has a convincing enough start and some of the most well-crafted instrumentation on the entire LP. The first full hit of volume on this track feels like a shoegazy atom bomb going off. Then the way the band escalates into a second harmonious, more subtle crescendo after that was a gratifying twist I did not see coming. This one's beautiful, apocalyptic, and maybe my favorite track here. But the following Last Man on Earth is kind of a funny moment on the LP. It begins sort of like a very sad, skeletal, stripped-back piano ballad from an indie film soundtrack, but eventually launches into this heavy, lush neo-psych instrumentation that is pure Flaming Lips worship from beginning to end. I'm not mad at it, but I'm not terribly impressed either. No Hard Feelings is another short skeletal ballad that's not too bad. It's mostly guided by what sounds like some driving, low-key, very plucky bass. Could be a guitar as well, but either way, there's quite a bit of low end on it, a milky tone too. The vocal melody has a very tried and true appeal to it against a righteous chord progression. Almost feels like some Mountain Goats circa 2005. Then there's actually some decent textures and sound play coming through on the shoegaze-influenced outro, which I suppose does slightly make up for the half-hearted singing and songwriting. Look, unfortunately, once again, I'm not too crazy about a Wolf Alice release. Not only were some cuts on this record, in my opinion, painfully boring, but when stripping away the massive layers of instrumentation here, many of the tunes that lie underneath are not all that striking or interesting. This record for sure is melodramatic, it sounds huge, but beyond that, it doesn't really offer a whole lot else. I'm feeling a light to decent 4 on this one. Tran. Zishin, have you given this record a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, music, Wolf Alice, forever.